evening and welcome to another episode of Thought That Get Results. I'm Webbo Herbert, and as per usual we're here every Tuesday evening with something that at least we think is of community interest and or of some concern. And if you think that you have something which fits into that category, you'd like to find out how you can be a part of the program, well, why don't you drop us a line, address it to Let's Talk Program in care of Vaughan Radio, P.O. Box 195, Charlestown in Nevis, or give us a call. Our numbers are 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. Here's a suggestion. You have a question or comment, perhaps you can get a pencil, piece of paper, write it down. So you're well organized and you're getting on the show, you take as little time as possible so that we can accommodate as many of you as we can. We ask only, first of all, you respect yourselves and then respect others, because we will not accept anything we deem that's not within our broadcast standards, but we encourage you to always be forceful with your point. Thank you all again for joining us. Your voice in the community, Thought That Get Results. You can also follow our live video stream of this program on our YouTube channel at Vaughan Radio or Facebook page at Vaughan Radio. Thank you all again. This evening we have two segments of the program. Health Matters is first, and the second segment, the heavyweights are in. Tonight, as promised, Dr. Mac Williams and his team, they were here a couple of weeks ago. We encouraged and invited them back, and you asked, so they are here once more. Dr. Williams, good evening. It's good to have you back.
Thank you, sir. Good evening. It's good to be here.
And you have the rest of your team who was with you last time. Akeisha, good evening.
Good evening.
And Chris, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Herbert. Thanks for having us back again.
Okay, good. So we spoke basically on natural medicines last time, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and Dr. Williams, you are attached to Jade.
Yes.
Okay, why don't you tell us a little bit more about it, because I thought that everybody knew, and in the post discussions some folks didn't know, and a lot of folks said they got to check it out and all that. So take a few moments, if you will, and tell us about Jade.
Well, Jade began 30-some years ago. I've been on the island 35, and of course I'm a citizen now, and started practicing natural medicine about 25 years ago. We opened Jade as to the public, and we've been treating people with naturopathic medicine ever since. The numbers of which in my files I think exceed over 7,000 patients that have gone into the clinic down through the years. And we have evolved, we've grown, and we pretty much are a primary care facility for people that have various complaints, as well as doing physicals and checkups. We have quite a few patients that come for that annually and semi-annually. So it's a round of different things, and we specialize, of course, in natural medicine and natural medicine care.
You have a big staff or small staff? Who comprise the people who work there?
We have a sizable staff. We have Sylvia, of course, that manages the front office for us, and I have two nurses that come on duty to do the physical checkups of taking the weight, the blood pressure, the blood glucose, the cholesterol, etc. And then we have myself, and we have Akeisha here assisting me with the herbal prescriptions and the microscope, as well as Christopher Broadbelt, who also is working with us now on Saturdays, taking and helping with the microscopy and the various matters around that. So it's a good sized staff, and I have, of course, students all around the world that visit on a pretty regular basis that are in the clinic, and they come and go throughout the year as well. So it's an active place. We're open Wednesdays and Saturdays. and our number is 469-9564.
Okay, and the natural medicines that you do, we're going to assume that we're talking to an audience that is very basic and would like to learn stuff from scratch, right? So the medicines that you do, the basic for the genesis is where plants, synthetic
Yes.
stuff.
Yes. I basically use a combination of vitamins because nutritional deficiencies today with the food supply are very common. And those we can also say that in many cases are the precipitants of disorders people have. And I do specialize in herbal medicine. That is my primary core treatment, is using herbs. And I've been using herbs for over 30 years and have gotten quite good at it, wouldn't you say, Akeisha?
Yes, I agree. Best teacher ever.
Okay. So I guess Akeisha wanted to make a case, make a point with that. Maybe I will agree. Let's see what happens at the end. Now, what I also wanted to know, do you use any plants that's on island?
Yes.
Oh, okay. You care to give us an idea of some of the plants you may use?
Well, we use neem, we use dandelion, vervain, various plants like that we use, and I import a lot of plants too. It's broad spectrum. I have 100 different plants that I have in my pharmacy, and I've been trained both in Chinese medicine as well as in we would call it basically European monastic style medicine, where we learn about the herbs, and of course a lot of the European herbs were brought there from the Caribbean and from the Caribbean, so they're pretty ubiquitous in that sense. So the thing with the plants is to get plants that are either picked fresh or picked properly so that they are stabilized, they're dried properly in the right time of year, and have the best potency and also the best shelf life. So it's a combination of factors determining the plants that we stock. And then it's I don't do cookbook formulas for patients. I basically prescribe to fit the symptoms of the individual based upon a way that I was trained many years ago of fitting the prescription towards the individual, not towards a, quote, disease per se, if that makes sense.
Makes a lot of sense. What is one of the ailments, for instance, or more than one, if you will, that you treat? For instance, some person or persons may be out there and have a particular, well, we probably can get to vitamin deficiency again, because that was a big interest when we discussed it the last time. But say someone is listening and they may not want to call. And by the way, if you like to call, we only have, like I said, this is the half of the program. We'll get into something else next. But if you like to ask a question or make a comment, you're free to call. 469-1616 or 1700. So what are some of the ailments that you deal with?
Oh, it's basically any condition that walks in the door. So just to give you for an example, take so-called migraine or migrainous type symptoms of a patient. There are two herbs that are my go-to herbs on that condition, wood betony and what's called balm or balmony. In combination, is I have learned, this is not taught to me in any book, it's something I've learned myself, is pretty broad spectrum to quell the migraine, and in many cases the patient will confess that when they come back to the clinic a week or two later, they've had maybe one or no attacks at all since they started drinking the tea. However, I would never trust a prescription on just one or two basic herbs for a condition, because usually with migraine, there is a liver deficiency or there is a kidney insufficiency, the patient doesn't drink enough water, or they have a digestive ailment that exacerbates or perpetuates the disorder of the throbbing headache that precipitates during the so-called migraine crisis. So I blend the formula around the other constellation of factors that the patient has to make sure that when they start to drink the tea, they absolutely get a result. That's how I work. And the same could be said for basically anything that walks in, whether it's a neurogenic pain, or whether it's a backache, or whether it's a simple headache, or whether it's a urinary tract infection, or whether it's reflux esophagitis and digestive complaints, or constipation. We start with the chief complaint, we prescribe for that, but then we look in the background to say what's causing this, why did it get to this level, and why is the body overreacting to such a point that now the patient's in pain and is looking for relief.
The back pain, that's interesting. I'm trying to mention a number of things that I would hear people commonly complain about. And I mentioned migraine.
Yes.
Is it a fact that it's seemingly mostly associated with women? Is it a fact, or a fact?
It's a higher percentage, but it's not exclusively limited to women.
Why you think it's a high percentage? Is there something in the composition of the bodies, men and women?
Well, it's if we would want to narrow it down to anything, we could say probably has to do with estrogen.
Oh, okay.
And estrogen dominance.
Okay. Because as I said, if it been commonly complained of, it seems to be more associated with
females, yes.
Females, yeah. Okay, so let's now include the others two staffers here. Keisha, you doc says that help a lot with the herbal medicines, correct?
Yes, you're correct.
Okay, well, you want to tell us a little bit more of that, about that? And when we were here last time, we had spoken about taking a sample of blood and being able to ascertain a lot of stuff from that. Okay, so maybe we can, expand on that a little.
Okay. Regarding the herbs used for the formula to help treat a person, as Doc mentioned, he would prescribe certain herbs. Sometimes it's 2, 4, or 6 depending on your situation, and I would use about a teaspoon of that herb, put it in the bag, so that when persons use them, they okay, before that, the teas normally would run from 3 to 6 to 8, depending on when you have to come back to the clinic or if the doc is off of island. And what persons don't understand is they see an herb and they want to use 6, 7, 8, 10 leaves. No, there is a certain amount to be used because there's something called overdoing, and you can definitely overdo on the herbs when you drink it as tea. So it's a teaspoon of the selected herbs that he would mention to me, and then they're in a tea bag form and they have instructions. There's a label and everything, the herbs that are being used to help to treat you on the back of the bag, and the instructions are in front as to how many water is needed and how many times of day you need to take it.
Christopher?
Well, basically, piggybacking off of what Akisha is saying, I mainly deal with the microscope. So I am the one that you will come to have a look at your blood. And in doing that, then we can tell that, okay, we'll have to add probably an additional 2 herbs because we see a lot of parasites in your blood, or we see some bacteria, or maybe we see some viruses in your blood. So we'll have to add those herbs to help clean them out, as we say.
And if we're seeing too much of the microparasites, we will prescribe a parasitical tablet. So that's what we do.
Well, what has been your experience in terms of having persons in the community, and I gather you serve people off island as well?
Mm-hmm.
People do come?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So folks are welcome if they're listening overseas, and how can they, maybe get in contact with you? And
869-469-9564. They can call and make an appointment or inquire. Or they can send me an email at Panam, Panamint, Panamint, at sisterisles.kn.
okay, can we talk a little bit more now about the deficiencies in terms of the vitamins, the various vitamins? Because I don't know whether or not normally when we would go to a doctor, I don't know if the normal checkup that you do, whether that will automatically reveal whether you're magnesium deficient, vitamin B, etc., because what I learned, one of the things I learned from our discussion when you were here the last time, is how significant and it is that if you are aware, you find out that you're deficient in certain vitamins, how that situation, were you to get that corrected, how much healthier you can be. So let's talk a little bit about the symptoms you may have when you're deficient in certain vitamins.
Well, there's obvious symptoms. For example, it's come to light finally in the medical profession of the ubiquity of vitamin D deficiency in the population. Generally speaking, because of the dietary and the working indoors and the lack of exposure to sunlight, most patients are mildly to drastically deficient in vitamin D. And that would affect the immunity, that would affect the absorption of calcium, for example, that would, in which case there are so many metabolic reactions in the body that are driven by calcium that the symptoms are too numerous to even mention. But we could say that what goes hand in hand for sure with vitamin D deficiency is not only a reduced immunity, common colds, common flu, those types of symptoms, but also high blood pressure. High blood pressure is a cardinal sign of vitamin D deficiency from my experience, to the effect that if you don't prescribe extra amounts of vitamin D, no matter what herb you prescribe for the high blood pressure, it generally will only mildly come down on the use of just herbal medicine alone.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That's another revelation for me.
It was for me too.
Oh, yeah, yes. What about, let's say, deficient in magnesium?
Magnesium, we have a saying, magnesium everything. There's over 300 enzyme systems in the body that are driven by magnesium, and equally for zinc, that it's just too numerous to account for. And of course, magnesium deficiency would go right along with any condition that has pain. Generally, when you have pain, you have magnesium deficiency. Generally, when you have high blood pressure, you have magnesium deficiency. Generally, when you have cramps in the muscles or aching back or stiff shoulders or tension anywhere in the body, we think of magnesium deficiencies. However, the problem with magnesium is simply taking a tablet to correct it is not going to get you immediate results. So therefore, people would pick up a magnesium tablet. Boy, I think if I take this, my blood pressure will start coming down. It doesn't, because it takes weeks, if not months, to build those magnesium reserves back up in the body for it to work effectively. So when you take these kinds of minerals for conditions, in my experience, the immediate results of relief are generally gradual and are not dramatic enough for a patient to notice that it's working. Say the first 5, 10, 30 days that the product is being taken.
So, am I correct to conclude that a visit to you can also reveal whether you're deficient in magnesium?
Yes, there are many ways to determine deficiencies in the body. If you're taking minerals, for example, if you want absolute understanding of mineral deficiencies, well, hair analysis is one such way of doing that. Of course, being that we live on an island, that's an expensive route because the hair sample has to be taken, it has to be mailed to a laboratory, you have to wait a couple of weeks to get the results, cost $200 or $300, et cetera, et cetera. A secondary way of doing it is by more or less analyzing the symptoms. You can pretty much guesstimate where the deficiency are. And the third factor is, since there is absorption rates in the intestines of these minerals and the body is pretty self-regulatory, it's kind of hard to overdose magnesium or calcium as taking as a supplement. So there's not too much worried about of taking the supplement because the body has self-adaptive and self-regulatory mechanisms for that.
Mm-hmm.
So you give it anyway, just on the assumption that the deficiency is there.
Mm-hmm. Am I detecting that you're saying that normally it's not a normal routine, because you seem to suggest that test, the results of it, you got to send it overseas or something?
Well, there's other methods too. For example, calcium and magnesium both. And usually when there's calcium deficiencies, there's some form of magnesium deficiencies. And these are what we call alkalizing macrominerals. They stabilize the body, and that is determined easily by the pH. So if we look at the pH of urine, for example, and we see that it's very acid in the individual, I can almost guarantee they're deficient in either calcium, magnesium, or both. So supplementation will be helpful. If the patient is having sleepless nights, I can virtually guarantee you have a magnesium deficiency. How much of a deficiency I can't directly say, but it's deficient enough to be able to warrant wanting to take a mineral supplement to alleviate the condition. And then we can look at the urine pH as it tends to alkalize back to normal to get an idea that the reserves in the body are building back up. Patient's feeling better, the patient's sleeping better. Another very direct route with magnesium deficiency if it's affecting the heart, there will be changes on the EKG. And we can give the mineral supplement, and I can directly look at the EKG and see the pattern changing on the QRS TEV and repolarization wave, that once it stabilizes back and the palpitations disappear, the blood pressure's coming down, the EKG's looking more normal, I know the calcium reserves are building back up in the body. So we do have really a multiple ways of looking at deficiencies.
Okay, just let me take this call. Okay, caller, please call back. I'm sorry for that. Please be patient with us. Okay, so Akeisha, you wanted to get in on something? Well, let me just ask Doc. It appears then that because in the tracing and analyzing why black people, so many black people have high blood pressure, because some says diet and so on, but in listening now, you have been mentioning that deficiency in certain things, and you link it also to the blood pressure. The caller maybe is back. Good evening, thank you for holding.
Good evening.
Yes, could you go ahead, please? Hello? Hello? You're on the air, could you go ahead? Okay, I'm sorry about that. Okay, yes, go ahead, please. Okay, caller, please call back. I think I have identified why we had that technical glitch, so please call back. Yes, Doc. Yeah. Go ahead. Anyone can jump in.
Yes, supplements are very, very important. So Doc mentioned about vitamin D, magnesium, zinc, also iodine is very, very important. We do not consume enough iodine, and Doc have made a formula, a fulvic acid fulvadine formula that you can purchase at the clinic that has in iodine as well, and also potassium and so forth. Also, speaking about what you eat, what you consume, bladderwrack as well has some good levels of iodine, kelp, but we don't consume these things. So I want persons to understand the importance of consuming iodine. In food, we don't get enough, hardly, probably 1%, if none. So you can also do your research at home, or else you can come and Jade and pick up the bottle of fulvadine that has iodine, as I mentioned, and fulvic acid, potassium, or you can take bladderwrack, you can take kelp in supplement tablets and so forth.
What are some of the foods though that gives you supply of iodine?
Food, not so much. What I've realized, as I mentioned before, bladderwrack is in the sea, so it's almost like a seaweed,
Sea vegetable.
a sea vegetable, you can say. So that's where iodine is mostly consumed from, or you can get it from. But in terms of the food like meat or potato, it's hardly to none.
Really?
Yes.
Does the body naturally produce any of it?
No.
But it uses it?
Has to have it. Has to have it.
Really?
Iodine deficiency is today easily typified as being pandemic. There's deficiencies in the soils. The only culture in the world where iodine deficiency is not prevalent to a large degree is Japan, because of the way they favor seafood in their diet, and they eat regular quantities of of kelp and different seaweeds in their diet. And equally, it's also a population typically that has very low incidence of breast cancer. So the breast tissue has concentrations of iodine in it, so that we can see these metabolic trends. So from that, it's developed a reputation that regular taking of iodine is a cancer preventative, without question.
And so how do you get it then? Did I gather that it's also available in seafood? Fish,
Seafood,
maybe?
fish,
No.
and in small amounts, depending upon your digestive capacity, because when it's in fish, it's bound to protein in the fish, so you have to have sufficient hydrochloric acid in your stomach to separate it digestively to absorb it. So there's various factors that do that, and you have to take it for a very long time. So Webbo, I'll give you an example of things that have been learned in the last 20 years in
Yes.
the world of alternative medicine. There was a group of doctors in the United States that took a group of obese patients and gave them several thousand percentiles excess of iodine orally in a tablet form, and monitored their urine excretion over a period of 6 months. And they found that for the first 3 months of overweight people taking extremely large doses of iodine, they did not secrete any iodine whatsoever, and they assumed that the iodine was being taken up by tissues in those areas, particularly the ovaries and the testicles, the breast tissue, and the brain, were soaking up this mineral because there was just no excretion whatsoever in the urine. And now we've learned from more, evidence scientifically from autopsy and tissue samples taken on people that the body stores a lot more iodine than was ever thought in medicine. It's not just reserved by the thyroid. It's a mineral that is in very small amounts, pretty much ubiquitously stored in all tissues of the body, and has a dynamic effect on the metabolic rate of individuals.
Why do a large number of people seemingly are iron deficient?
Iron deficiency has a lot to do with gastric efficiency. Equally, when we see iron deficiency, we usually also see hydrochloric acid deficiency, which the chief complaint today, they simply call it reflux esophagitis, or the old school term was dyspepsia. And the medical profession, we believe, wrongly prescribes what's called protein pump inhibitors, which shuts down the gastric acid efficiency, which generally makes the condition worse rather than better. So we do the opposite. We stimulate the body to produce more hydrochloric acid, of which herbs help to do, and the iron deficiency will go away, as well anemia as well.
Yes, Chris, anything you would like to add?
In terms of the magnesium deficiency and the supplements, most people reach out to me for different supplements, and most times before I would recommend a supplement per se, I would ask them about their gut. I would ask them how often they go to the bathroom, how often they move their bowels, because sometimes instead of just loading your body with these supplements, you need a clean out first. You need a clean out so you can add back the healthy gut microbiome, so you can build back up most of these vitamins and minerals that your body needs. So that's something that I hear often enough so that I can talk to it now.
Is it? Yes.
Yes, I totally agree with Chris. Because of how we're eating now, we consume a lot of muck in the gut. And I guess we're just waiting until we get some sort of severe pain
Sign.
or some sort of sign to realize, okay, I'm going to change my diet. But what persons don't understand that, yes, the body is taking in the poor choices that you decide to eat, but it's not taking in well because you're not taking in any nutrients whatsoever. And if we take a detox, start to get the bowels to move again, you would feel a lot better with certain pains because everything starts in the gut. And eating organic food is very, very important. Most of the fruits that are imported, I don't know if you guys realize, but it has a 4-digit mark on them. And those are sprayed with chemicals. And once we start to eat those fruits and vegetables, these pesticides and so forth that they are being sprayed with, our body now have a lot of work to do because it's not normal. It's not something that is supposed to be inside of the gut. So I would suggest persons to try to source organic foods and vegetables, because in the end, those fruits and vegetables that you're taking from the stores, they're breaking down the good bacteria that is inside of you, and you need those good bacteria to do their job. And once you start to eat organic and understand the importance of it, then everything else runs a bit smoother in terms of the immune system. The teas work much better, the supplements works much better and faster, and you'd get an overall great feeling once you understand the importance of organic food, the importance of getting nutrients in your body, the importance of supplement, and also consuming teas.
What would be an example of, to use the term that you use, taking in muck? You know, what's an example of folks who have particular diets? They eat what
White bread.
Oh, okay.
Fries. Who
Greasy
doesn't
food,
love
pork.
Yes, yes. Commonly, persons don't understand this, but rice, if you're consuming in large amount, you must understand that rice, if you left it overnight, it starts to get very sticky, and that is what is being put inside your body. So do that experiment tonight, leave it for about 2 days or so, and then when you go back to it, you'll realize how sticky, and the smell of it is so horrible. Just imagine you eating this big plate of food that has largely rice and just a little bit of vegetables. That's what is happening in your body. We're consuming muck, things that are not natural. Things that are natural are like breadfruit, sweet potato, and yam, dasheen, things like that. The body can break down because they have in fiber as well. But once you're consuming the fried chicken, you are putting in, I use the term, you're boiling your chicken in oil, basically, when you're consuming large quantities of fried chicken, or just fried chicken in a whole. You're literally boiling your chicken in oil. Now you tell me, does that make any sense? And isn't that muck?
And then to add to that, Webbo, now imagine, as Akisha said, you eat this rice this afternoon, you go to bed tonight, you don't have a bowel movement. In the morning you wake up, You eat piece of bread and cheese. You don't have a bowel movement as yet. Then lunchtime you eat another set of rice. All of these foods, they don't have enough nutrients inside of them for the body to start to break down and use. So you start feeling weak, you start feeling sleepy, or fatigue, or what we will call niggeritis, ethnic fatigue. So you get this feeling at probably 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon, and you just think that, oh, my belly is full. But your body is actually looking for nutrients that it's not finding. Not only that,
Chris, let me just take this and then we'll finish up on that point. Good evening, thank you for holding.
Good show. To the doc, there is a vitamin B17 that was, well, I just learned about it. Could the doc expound on the importance of that?
Vitamin B17?
Yes.
Doc?
Vitamin B17 was initially called Laetrile as a purified extract of the apricot pit called amygdalin. Amygdalin is the extract of the apricot pit. It was originally noticed with the Hunza culture in southern China, that they had very few diseases. They had very little arthritis in their community, and they didn't have any cancer to speak of. And there was a researcher called Dr. Krebs that started an experiment with treating cancer with it, and became quite well known quite rapidly, and was, we know now from the fact of the son of one of the doctors that worked with Dr. Krebs, that it was radically suppressed by the pharmaceutical company. People were put in prison. Licenses were taken from various doctors, but fact of the matter is, it secretes a compound that has a cyanide component that selectively kills cancer cells. And it still works, and there's many doctors around the world still using it. And the short and simple of it is, if you eat apricot pits or you take the supplement of B17, your likelihood of getting cancer later in life is dramatically reduced.
And so that B17, you supply that as well?
Of late we do. I took 2 seminars on B17. I was actually very embarrassed. I consider myself really up on lots of things. And I met John Richardson, whose father, Dr. Richardson, was one of the clinical vanguards of this therapy. And there is a book available called Vitamin B17 Case Histories, which we have copies of at the Jade Center, and you can also get it online. But we have had interviews of people that were diagnosed by Dr. Richardson decades ago with cancer, and they're still alive and thriving, and they were given 6 months to live. It's a fabulous, intriguing story, and it convinced me to. I take B17 every day myself, without doubt, religiously. Just as I take a multivitamin, I take my B17. It's one of the great, we could call it one of the great bushes of the herbal world, is the apricot pit.
Chris, maybe we can continue where you had left off.
Yes, I left off at the consumption of the foods and what it basically does to the gut. So, as I was saying, when you consume these foods and you're not passing them out, then the foods tends to stay inside of the gut. What it does there, stays there, and it breaks the gut lining. That is when most of the trouble start, because then you get all these toxins that's in your gut starting to leak inside of your blood, and then this is what causes most of the sickness, so causes most of the parasites, causes most of the ailments is that we see walking the door at Jade. So that's why I said earlier that it's so important to refer to people to get a detox before you start actually taking your supplements, before you start putting back the minerals in your body. Clean out what's there first, and then you can start building back up your healthy gut microbiomes, and then add in the minerals and the vitamins that you need. Because with healthy gut microbiomes, then the body will and the gut will start to absorb these way faster.
Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Good evening again. Is there a relationship between vitamin D deficiency in women and fertility? That's a question for the doctor.
Yeah, could you be much louder and clearer? I don't think we got it clearly.
Oh, sorry. I was saying that there's a vitamin D deficiency in women, how it relates to fertility.
Fertility.
In women, yeah.
Okay.
So the question was vitamin D, as in David?
That's yes.
Yes. Yes, we know now from a consensus of hundreds of different practitioners in the alternative field that we can take a blood sample and send it to a laboratory and get a vitamin D level analysis, and people always come back deficient to a mild or severe degree. So it's cheaper and simpler just to take the supplement for 30 days, for example, 5,000 international units, which is considered a high dose. But it takes that amount of vitamin to raise the blood level to any significant degree in a short period of time. Because if you take the minimum daily requirement of just 400 units, it's going to be like watching grass grow to get a result. So I just give 5,000 right off the bat, and we see improvements in conditions turn around very quickly.
Okay, we are getting to that time, so can we get some final comments from each person? We're going to begin with Christopher, and then Akeisha, and we're going to finish up with the doc.
Okay, well, I'm just going to keep it simple and, recommend to anybody that's, suffering from any simple discomfort to, do a detox or start intermediate fasting and give the gut the break that it might need, and then start adding probiotic or prebiotic to help to build back the healthy gut microbiomes.
Yes, I want to second that with what Chris said, and encourage persons to watch what they eat and understand the importance of nutrition, and also take a checkup, come to Jade and look under the microscope when we take a prick of blood, see what's going on in your blood, and start to treat your body with a bit more love and patience and so forth, because the body is patient with you, but I don't think you're patient with your body.
Well, I would like to say how proud I am of my two students here. They are speaking firsthand from a knowledge base of actually watching these things work on people and having objective ways of seeing their improvements with a natural health perspective and therapeutic plan from the standpoint of improvements in blood sugars and blood cholesterol, in vitality, in freedom of symptoms, and of course looking in the microscope and seeing that what medicine teaches that the blood's sterile, that is a ridiculous concept. There's no such thing. as sterile blood. The blood is thriving with microbes, and the sicker you are, the more you have. And the only way to get that in balance is by cleansing the body first and foremost. So the digestive tract, the efficiency, and what we eat has a dramatic influence on health. And then as that occurs over time, then these vitamin and mineral deficiencies start to take in, and depending upon the tissue system that's affected determines what needs to be given and how long and what dosages it needs to be given to get a result. And unfortunately, you can read about these things in books and you can apply them, but there's nothing that beats years of clinical experience and watching it happen and judging for yourself how and why these things work. And that's where I am in my life, and as I get in my elderly years, I have those years of experience of seeing things work and not work.
Okay, Doc, is always a pleasure to have you and your team. And I got to tell you also that we're, even with this session, we're getting some comments and people appreciating the content of what you're saying. And I think as a society, we are health information deficient. So we will try, and once you're willing, to provide a diet of this information and see whether or not it won't help to improve us as a society in taking care of our health, right? And always remember, I will always remember that Akeisha warns us about putting muck, or how it go again?
Yes. The processed food then. The processed
No,
foods.
but walk with me, I prefer the other one. The muck, yes. Okay, so thank you all again, Christopher, Akeisha, Doc Williams, and why don't you tell us finally again how they can get in touch with you, where you're located, Jade, and all that.
Thank you, Webbo. We're basically the driveway across from the fire station at the airport. Just turn right at the sign, or left if you're coming from the other direction, and just drive up to the end. The clinic is right there at the end of the road, and the number is 469-9564, and I practice on Wednesdays and Saturdays, most days of the week, and my practice is getting busier thanks to your lovely program here, and
that's good.
the word is spreading, so we could be at a third day a week, maybe a Thursday or Tuesday, but generally Wednesdays and Saturdays I'm there, and I love what I do, and I do what I love, and informing the Nevis public I'm more than happy to do, and we'll always want to come back to your show, because it's always good for the people to get self-informed and self-aware, because at the end of the day, the best doctor you have is taking care of yourself.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Doc, we appreciate your service, and on those days that you are open now, Wednesdays and Saturdays, they can walk in?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we open doors at 7:30, and we work till generally 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and just walk in and you will be received and taken care of.
Doc McWilliams, Akeisha Fergus, and Christopher, it's good to have you all, and I don't know, I think I might want to try the vitamin B17. The second segment will be in. The heavyweights will be in right after this.
Ready to save while you build? Now you can at Builder's Paradise. Yes, shoppers, build up your Value Club points at Builder's Paradise. That's right, Value Club members and shoppers, your favorite frequent buyer club is now available at the home of hardware and more. Whether you're laying tiles, painting walls, replacing doors, upgrading windows, or fixing up your home, every purchase at Builder's Paradise now earns you Value Club points. Enjoy exclusive benefits like discounts on thousands of items, special savings for seniors, instant deals, quarterly rebates, plus an extra up to 2% off every quarter. Shop more, save more, earn more, only at Builder's Paradise. Don't miss out. Start building your rewards today with Value Club at Builder's Paradise, because every bolt, board, and brush brings you closer to bigger, better savings. Terms and conditions apply.
From Queen City, Nevis, this is the powerhouse of the Eastern Caribbean, Vaughn Radio.
Back on this episode of Thought That Get Results. Our first segment featured a health segment with Dr. McWilliams, Akeisha Fergus, and Christopher Brathwaite. Christopher Broadbelt. That comprised the panel in the first segment. This segment, heavyweights are in. Roger Fifield, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and of course, good evening to my fellow panelists. I want to say a special good evening to all those who are listening and viewing via the various medium, Webbo. Webbo, it was really interesting listening to the first segment. I'm sure that the listeners and viewers would have learned much. Webbo. But Webbo, I just want to say a special good evening to those who might be...
But Roger, before you go on, just send that first segment, right? And we've been getting some, messages expressing the same sentiments. Now, if I were in charge, and people sometimes think that I would be a dictator, but I would make it mandatory. I should make it mandatory that I keep one of these segments at least once or twice per month.
Well, I think that anything to do with health, the general populace would want to benefit from whatever information they can get.
You think I should be a dictator and make sure it happen and make people listen?
You're a manager, but you're not a dictator. And because you're a manager, you're in a position that you can make it happen.
Yeah, but you're not working with me. I know I'm a manager. I'm asking you if I must, elevate to a dictator and make people listen. That segment.
People on their own would listen.
Anyway, continue.
Yes, well, I want to send out birthday greetings to all those who are celebrating their birthday today, and of course during the week ahead of us. And those who are celebrating anniversaries, or whatever the special occasion be, I want to bid you a very good evening and hope that you're having lots of fun and it has been an enjoyable one thus far. Well, for those who are hospitalized, I want to say, get well soon. We are praying for you. We are hoping that your recovery would be the soonest and you will be back home out of the hospital with your friends and your families. And those who are bereaved, we sympathize and we know it's a difficult time, but as I always say, God knows best and we must continue to lean on Him as a source of comfort and strength. Webbo, we are here in comfort, so to speak, while our brothers and sisters in Jamaica, you know, Category 5 Hurricane Melissa is pounding down on them. And I want us to remember our brothers and sisters in Jamaica. And while we say a prayer for our loved ones, even though we may not have someone, maybe a relative or family in Jamaica, we are all humans and we must continue to pray for them, pray for their safety. I would have seen some videos out of Jamaica where a number of the houses, the infrastructure would have lost their roofs, including a hospital, Webbo. So I want to, you know, want us to continue to pray for them, for their well-being, for their safety, as this powerful Category 5 hurricane that is pushing winds up to 185 miles per hour and upwards. Webbo, we must pray for them and for their safety. Webbo, I want to remind persons who are listening and viewing that this is an interactive program. We encourage you to call in. Of course, we can learn something from you and you can learn something from us. So we are asking you kindly to call in as we together make this program a fruitful one. Thank you once again, Webbo.
Conrad Nile Liebert, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and good evening to your staff here at Vaughan Radio, to my colleagues around the table, good evening, and to everyone who is with us this evening by the various means. Special good evening. Also to my brethren in America, in Connecticut, Mr. Liebert, and my friends in Toronto. And of course, yes, I reach out to my friends here, my Jamaican friends here on island, and express my concern about what's going on in their homeland. And I'm happy to be here this evening, Webbo. I hope we can have a fruitful discussion this evening, Webbo. Thank you.
The Honorable Spencer Brand, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and a very pleasant good evening to my fellow panelists around the table. Let me say how delighted I am to be here once again to partake in this very interesting show. I want to join with Roger Webbo and say that I thought that the first half of this show tonight was very informative, and while you ask if you were in charge, I believe that all of us around this table would definitely agree that you are certainly in charge to mandate that once the powerhouse is on the air, naturally people would listen. So I believe that that would be a natural occurrence once the powerhouse is on the air. Webbo, I also want to join with both Roger and Naya to say to our Jamaican friends here on the island of Nevis how concerned we are about the situation there in Jamaica. I have been following the advances of Hurricane Melissa, and it appears to me that once that hurricane would have departed the shores of Jamaica, we are going to be seeing some serious devastation on the island of Jamaica. I hope that it would not be as bad as some are predicting, but I believe that we will have some significant damages to Jamaica. Webbo, I also want to use this opportunity to wish all those persons who may be celebrating a birthday or wedding anniversary, or certainly some accomplishment in their life, whether it's today or during the course of this week. Happy birthday, happy anniversary, and I hope that they are celebrating in grand style. I want to make mention of my good friend there on Government Road, Mikey Mills, who celebrated his birthday yesterday. I stopped by him very briefly and I noticed that he had a spread. I don't know if he was going to consume all of that, but I just want to say to him, happy birthday, Mikey. I know that you are having a grand time, and I know your birthday will last for, I believe, the rest of the year. Webbo, I want to say to those families who are in mourning tonight, whether it's the loss of a friend, a family, a colleague, or just an acquaintance, a loved one, I want to offer them my deepest condolences, and I hope that they can remember their loved one with fond memory as time goes on. and reflect on the times and the occasions and the interaction that they would have had with that individual. To those persons who are in our various hospitals here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, to those who are seeking medical attention overseas, I hope that with the help of modern medicine and therapeutic medicine and natural science and their own body healing, that they can be on their mends and be up and about in the not too distant future, as we look forward to seeing them on their feet once again. Webbo, thanks for the invitation, and I am indeed looking forward to tonight's discussion.
Before you start putting the stuff on the table, I'd just like to give a big shout out to Ted Hobson. And when I don't shout you, Ted, you're always on my brain, right? So I just want to let you know and to wish you all the very best. So good night, Ted. So let's go back to the panel. What we got?
Well, of course, Webbo, the highly awaited conference with the people was held last night at the Anglican Church Hall. Belated, in a sense, but quite relevant to the present climate. I think it was a good showing. I think it was a good turnout, and I'm sure many people were able to be enlightened, and in some way some of the queries being answered. I suppose that it was quite a display, a function of democracy, which I think we should always remind ourselves that when you were just talking about dictatorship, we must always remind ourselves that we are there in this climate to really consult and, of course, to optimize our ideas, to optimize our thoughts, our behavior, especially those who are in government, who sometimes make the decisions and implement the findings. And so I thought it was a good gesture, and many people are asking for another. I'm not sure about that. Personally, I think last night's showing was good enough for me. I think in many cases, many areas of the discussion, I think I find we tend to be going around in circles a lot, but I suppose there are always little cracks that need to be filled. And so whatever it takes to bring the public on board, to bring the public up to scratch with what is taking place or general intention, or what won't be taking place is very important. I generally feel that the country is a little more at ease as it relates to the proposed project. And so, without any further ado, I'll pass the mic on to...
Yes, Webbo, as Naya spoke to the town hall meeting that was held last evening, I would have said before that the Premier would have said that he and his administration would have a town hall meeting, and I was rather pleased, Webbo. I actually got there a little after 7, and the hall was actually packed. Persons were actually standing on the inside, and this of course demonstrates the importance of the proposed Destiny project, how it is, I want to say, dear to the hearts of all Nevisians, and Nevisians have their various concerns, and I want to believe that persons came out and they asked the questions. I might have had 1 or 2 questions to ask, but as I said, I wasn't able to go on the inside, and of course there wasn't anything to facilitate Christians from the outside.
But there is something to facilitate the question now. One of the panel members is here.
Yes, yes, of course.
Oh, okay.
Of course. But I'm just giving you my feedback from last night, Webbo. And as you rightfully said, one of the members of the NIA is here, and so I can probably say it now that he's here, we would hear. You know, one of the feedback is that, you know, there could have been maybe some sort of speakers on the outside, so persons could have probably hear clearly, you know. So, or it might have been, as Alexis Jeffers would have said Friday on his program, that, you know, a program or a town hall meeting, you know, of this magnitude probably should have been probably moved to NIPAC, where there is more spacious and would have been able to accommodate more persons. Now, one of the questions that I would ask, Webbo, I know that the 20% was spoke to last night, and my question is, you know, this 20%, would it be paid out in phases, meaning the project is going to be built out in stages, in 3 stages? I think, Brandon, am I correct in saying that? In 3 stages at least? Okay, let's just say stages. Let's just say stages. So, would it after the first stage is the first phase, sorry, is completed, or if it is 3 phases, if after the completion of all 3 phases, after the completion of the entire project? That is a question that at least I would have want to know, because Nivisions, I believe, would be anxious, especially the 5% that would be going to the individual, so to speak, you know, of when we would be getting that. When would the government and people of Nevis, you know, start to benefit from the 20%? I know that last night that what came out was that, you know, they were going to work on certain things in terms of the formatting and how, you know, monies would be paid and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. The NIA had a press conference today, and a lot of things came to light, some that was rehashed from last night and some new things. And I think that, you know, we all should, you know, be happy that we are living, you know, in a democracy, so we can learn, we can hear, we can, you know, able to weigh things and, you know, make our own determination as, you know, what is what, and if we are for it. Of course, all of us would not be for it, but as I said earlier in an earlier program, we have to weigh the benefits, you know, the bad and the good, so to speak, and if the good outweigh the bad, then of course we should go for it. And I believe that in this particular project, it is an investment that has, you know, lots of potential, and then could be, you know, a game changer for Nevis, Webbo. So I'm really looking forward, you know, with great anticipation for the commencements of this investment. I know that it could be a trickle down effect, you know, down to the persons, the vending persons who probably prepare food, and they use the vehicle to go around, they're mobile vendors. Because if we know where the south of Nevis is, that is proposed, you know, that it is somewhat away from the mainstream villages and of course Charlestown, and persons would be working there, and persons may not have maybe the time, or it's not convenient for them to travel back to the village or into Charlestown, maybe to have lunch and what's not. So it's gonna trickle down. I see, the whole of Nevis can benefit. The farmers, the fishermen, the restaurateurs, the hotel industry, the tourism industry, the taximen. Everybody, I believe, stand to benefit. The heavy equipment operators, the truckers, I think, the buses, of course, persons would be working there when it is all said and done, and persons would need transportation, to get to work. So I believe that it could really be a win-win. I believe that, it is afoot, it is in motion, in my humble opinion, and I believe that what we ought to do at this stage, I'm not saying not to register your disapproval if that's what it is, but I believe if we can make suggestions to make it, better, because if it is better for one, it would be better for all. Remember that Nevis is really small-knit, is a small-knit community, and most of us here are related. If we are not related, we are some friend, co-worker, or something like that. And, if you benefit one, it could very well benefit all. The spin-off, Webbo, I believe, would be immense. I would just probably pause for now, allow somebody else to chime in.
Webbo, good evening again. Roger spoke about the 20%, but I want to go back before the 20%, and I want to make it very clear, Webbo, that the Nevis Island administration has not signed any agreement as we are here sitting tonight. We are, of course, still in a negotiation stage. One of the first things that has been proposed as an outcome of this development to the people of Nevis is a $50 million over the next 5 years once the development has been activated, so to speak. The 20% that Roger inquired about would be at the point of profit, once they basically start to make a profit, and 10% of that goes into a sovereign wealth fund, and of course 10%, 20% comes to the government, but 10% of that goes to the sovereign wealth fund. I want to pick up on something that Naya mentioned, and I kind of like his language actually, conference with the people, and he also said that it was belated, but I don't often like to disagree with Naya, but I think that we have been having many conferences with the people. We have met with the Chamber of Industry and Commerce. We have met with the church. We have met with the police. We have met with the members of the opposition. We are expected to have a meeting with our 6 farmers on this week Thursday at 9 a.m. and later that evening we are also expected to have a conference with the people again, Naya, as it relates to our heavy equipment operators. We have said that we believe that this is a development that is in the people's interest. We will have conversation with every single sector of our community. And last night, as Naya indicated, we would have had that conversation as an open conversation, so to speak, with persons from the public. I felt that despite one or two unfortunate comments, I felt that the town hall last evening was very well attended. I felt that there were some very good questions, and also I feel that the level of interest and the level of interaction, perhaps the level of curiosity, and as a government we are trying to give more information to the public I would also say, Naya, that we would have continued that exercise as well today, as you put it, conference with the people, with an entire press conference, where we would have been from 10 o'clock until, I believe it was well around 1 o'clock, somewhere around there, where the members of the press would have had the opportunity to ask us their own set of questions. So we have been having that interaction with the public in the various groups in this type of setting as we did last night, which was the first one. And also we made ourselves available to the press corps to have their question. This, I think, is an important enough interaction with the people of Nevis. We feel that this is something that we want to hear from as many persons as possible. We know that there are some who are perhaps getting emotional, and rightly so. Persons have the right to get emotional over it. But I think that separate and apart from the emotion, there are persons who are asking some valid questions and timely questions, and we as a government would continue to do our very best to try and dispel the information and answer the questions to the best of our abilities based on what we have in front of us. But I just wanted to add the caveat that we are still in that negotiating stage. We from where we started to where we are now, I think that we have come a good way, and I think that as we continue that process, we are hoping that we can make sure that we keep the people of Nevis as informed as an updated as much as we possibly can. This is something that will not happen without the involvement and the consultation of our people. This is something that is, I believe that this is the only type of development that must be approved by our parliament, and interestingly enough, by both parliaments actually. And I think that we can make sure that we voice our concerns not only in these, as Naya language, conference with the people, but also we can reach out to our individual representatives and have that conversation with them and express your concern, express your likes and your dislikes. And we are open, we are listening, we are trying to gather as much information as possible. And I think that once we are having those type of conversation in a kind of cordial and mutual respect manner and forum, I believe that we'll be able to get much done as we seek to move this development forward.
Yeah. Mr. Brand, the press conference today brought a lot to the fore, and I think that one of the members of the press sometime earlier today asked a question to the Premier, and I was really happy when the Premier said, I think it was to do with the 20% and how you would know if they make a profit or loss. I think he said something to the effect that, you know, the books would be audited and stuff like that. And I must commend him and his team to, you know, put something to that effect, you know, in the agreement, the proposed agreement, as you would have said that there is no agreement that has been signed already. But I also realized too that, I think it was said last evening, in terms of the waste generated, that the Destiny would recycle maybe 80 to 90% of their waste, and the other 10 to 20% would be exported, right? So, but what I want to know, you know, how we would be, what mechanism would be in place, you know, to verify that the other 10 to 20% is actually exported and not maybe sail away on a ship and maybe dump somewhere in the ocean. So, I mean, yes, we understand, you know, there have been rumors, you know, over the years, you know, that, you know, certain ships, you know, sailing would dump their waste, you know, certain places in the ocean and stuff like that. So this is a concern, and I'm sure those who are into environmental health and stuff like that would be concerned too. And of course, we are to be concerned. We are people who love to eat from the ocean. Certainly I am one of those who love the ocean and love to eat from the ocean. So I am not sure if anything would be in place to verify, as I said. Another thing to Mr. Brand, I'm really hoping that it's not too late. You would have mentioned moments ago that, you guys going to meet with the 6 farmers. I know Honorable Brantley would have said today that in a 5-year period, something like maybe 1,000+ persons would be coming out of school. That equates to basically 200+ persons annually.
Mm-hmm.
And I dare say that those persons, coming out of school annually are not just from the 6th form. So I do not know if it is too late maybe to invite, the 5th formers. The 5th farmers from the various schools, I dare say even from the private, but if not the private, certainly the 2 government-run secondary schools. And if it is that you have to bus them there at a particular venue, as I said, I don't know if it is too late. Maybe whatever equipment would have probably been set up already. I really don't know, but I want to believe that if we emphasize so much on those who are leaving school, I believe that it would be somewhat of an injustice, not to appraise, those who would be leaving school at the 5th form level. So I just want to, echo that, so those who will be leaving the 5th form from the Gingerland Secondary School, the Charleston Secondary School, the NISS, they can benefit from such, as I believe that it is not geared towards 6 farmers per se, but to school leavers.
Well, that suggestion, Roger, is very well noted. I think that there is absolutely great value in that suggestion. And like I said, we are open to having these conversations with as many sectors, so to speak, of our community. The 5th formers is also, I think, such a many of them, or some of them, may not necessarily go on to 6th form. Some of them may want to finish and go into some technical field after they finish with 6th form. So that's an area that absolutely we can definitely give some consideration to. I believe that it's not too late. It's never too late to, in my mind, try and work out these kind of logistics, because, like I said, we have not signed any agreement yet, so we can still have those kind of conversations with 5th formers, 4th formers, and get them to a point where they can get an appreciation, because I am certain that they would have heard about this. They are in a space where the information is flowing all around. There is a lot of things that have been said. It's not that their ears are plugged that they can't hear, so and they are seeing they're on social media. So it's a valid suggestion, and it's something that I definitely would hope that the entire team would take under advisement.
The government the island administration is doing something that's good, talking to everybody about this project. It's a formality, which I think they are adhere to or trying to bring to the front, really. But the question is there anything that can be said from these engagements that can prevent the island administration to do what they intend to do? I have gathered the feeling personally that, and I understand that there is nothing being signed yet, but this is a forward-going thing. I believe that it would be signed. I believe the project is on whether the consultation take place, yes or not. It's difficult to think of anything that can be said from the various groups that you guys are meeting that would change the government intentions in terms of going forward with this project. But at the same time, I would ask the people to still be grounded and mindful. And of course, there's lots of promises and so forth. basically touching the four corners of this little island. And of course, with a project this size, the island can be, to a great extent, consumed by the whole volume and the whole magnitude of the occurrences that would take place with a project of this sort. Of course, a lot has been said about people coming back home. A lot has been said about good jobs and Nivision's first with jobs. I would ask the people to remain grounded and at the same time, with such a project coming on stream, to prepare themselves, because as I said, there's nothing at this point with these various meetings and conferences that are taking place would prevent would stop the NIA from signing this project. But there's one question, Mr. Ban, I would like to ask. I'm not sure if it's been asked, but if the investors decide to pull out after you guys have signed what you guys constantly say that you have not signed, is there any consequence? What would be the consequence of that?
Based on what we are negotiating, discussing at this moment, if we were to sign the document and the investors choose to pull out, as I'm using your language,
yes,
one of the penalty is I believe it's around $75 million
to be paid.
And like I said, we have not signed that document yet.
Yes.
We are still in negotiation, but that is one of the proposed numbers. That is where we are at this point.
Okay, and wildly thinking that, which is very much not possible, that if the government pull out, what would be the consequence after signing for unknown reasons?
The proposal at this time, I believe it's 2 times the capex. I believe it's only 2 times the capex of capital expenditure and all of that, twice the times of that. I think Naya.
No, to be quite honest with you, I do understand we're still in, things still is very much in a liquid state. These are just questions, and I don't expect exact answers. I won't be holding anyone to any particular figure at this point. But those are interesting questions, of course, that crosses my mind. But one thing that really spikes out last night, they won't be paying tax. And I've been told it's because they intend to put the infrastructure in and all these kind of things. And, and when they say they won't be paying tax, who are they?
Well, the development itself, the project is being proposed as a, let's say for example, I'm going to give you an example. Let's say, for example, Conrad Naya Liebert wants to do a business, registered at the company registry as Naya's Metalworks.
Yeah.
That's the company. And the company would have made its proposal, request of the government for certain concessions and so on and so forth. The government and Naya's Metalwork enter into an agreement in terms of the nature of that business and that agreement. One of that requirement can be that Naya perhaps may not be asked to pay any tax for, let's say, 50 years. But during that 50 years, Naya would every single year train 10 youngsters to become welders. Naya would be able to offer 5 scholarships to youngsters. There are, in my mind, different ways of what I call benefit to the country. I think that oftentimes we look at investment or an investor who as you say, don't pay tax, but oftentimes we forget about the other contribution and benefits to the country. I believe that paying taxes is one side, in my mind, of the balance sheet. There are other contributions that I feel that, in terms of our country's development, can have significant benefit to the island.
Okay, great. So the zone operators we are talking about won't be paying tax?
That is as proposed at this time.
As proposed,
yes.
At this time. Okay,
but
those who are living there.
But, Naya, while it is proposed that they are requesting that they won't have to pay any tax, they are contributing in other ways.
Yes, of course.
Right?
They have an obligation with the government to make contribution in various aspects,
right,
to the functioning of Nevis. Right. I do understand that. So we are talking about the zone operators there. What about the people that live in the zone? Would you be would those people be considered zone operators, or
they would be considered as what we call zone resident?
Zone resident, and they also won't be paying.
Right. That is their internal arrangement. The company.
Okay, I would try and move to the zone as soon as things are organized.
Well, sure. There's nothing that can prohibit you from.
That's not a, that's very interesting. That's very interesting. Go ahead, Mr.
You see, one of the things, well, you alluded to it, Naya, and sometimes we have to give up something to get something, as Mr. Brand would have alluded to also. So when we really look, holistically at the entire project investment, I suspect that the accountants, the mathematicians, would have put down their heads and, do the maths and work out, well, how much monies we would make, if the profit is, projected, because there must be some projection, there must be some realistic projections.
Absolutely.
How much, in real dollars and cents, we as a people, we as a government, is expected to get over a particular period of time. What benefits, there is to be had, in terms of the spin-offs. One of the things that the Premier would have said earlier today too, our hotel industry, is basically seasonal. We are closed maybe a month, 2 months, especially the smaller hotels. These persons, because of the volume, they now would probably go out, eat out, and as a result of that, the small establishment would probably, stay afloat. But one of the things, Mr. Brand and Naya, that I like about what is proposed to be built in the agreement, and I believe by just this coming to the fore, that I see the investors, are serious, and the NIA, they are also serious. The Premier would have spoke to the fact that, that they would have timelines. After a particular time,
there are penalties.
There are penalties if you don't reach thus far. I can recall many years ago, I took out a mortgage with I think Development Bank, and one of the stipulations is like, when you come to draw down the monies, you cannot get another dispensation until you reach
a certain stage,
maybe beam height, or whatever stage it is. Otherwise, they're going to look at it that you probably squander the money. And I am saying, for example, if by the completion of year one, this is just me speaking, this has nothing to do with the NIA or the investors, but if it is that by year one, all of the road infrastructure is supposed to be in place, and it is not in place, then there are penalties. When we look around, we look on Nevis, and we see so much of projects that we have had investors, who didn't complete these projects. When we even look at St. Kitts, the same thing. And I believe a mechanism such as this would somewhat keep the investors on the toes. Look, we cannot procrastinate. We have to continue. We have to continue with the momentum, because if we don't, we could be penalized. And don't fool yourself. Even the richest of persons, they do not want to be penalized. They do not want to feel it in the pocket when they know that they have to live up to a particular obligation, and especially if they know they can do it. So this tells me that the project would be moving at a pace. And I dare say that I foresee, a lot of heavy equipment operators and truckers, benefiting. Those from St. Kitts will be benefiting also, because project the magnitude of this would need a lot of heavy equipment, and I believe too that some would be brought in, of course,
absolutely,
to help with this particular project. And I believe as we continue to speak about it, as the questions continue to come in, I believe that the NIA would be in a better position to have a better idea of what we, the common man, on the street, thinks about the project, what can be put in place, what can be form part of the agreement. So I must commend the NIA again, for having this approach. Some may say that it is probably too late for us to speak. It might be belated, but I don't think that it is. Because if we come as a united front and we say, look, we want this particular thing to be a particular aspect, to be built in the agreement, I believe that the NIA would have no choice but to listen to us. We are the masses, we are the people. And again, I would have said on a prior program that we elect persons to lead. And sometimes some of us are not leaders.
In such things like what? Any example?
To lead.
No. You said such things that may be requested by the people and the government. The island administration would have.
For example, I know this would have come out in the town hall meeting last night. At least a question, in terms of would these residents be able to vote? The Premier would have said, at least today, that he is not for them to vote. And I think he said that he could have speak for the Prime Minister. Both of them are in agreement. And from what I understand, it is not an amendment to the Constitution, but it's an amendment to the National Assembly Election Act. That's the particular legislation that need to be amended in whatever form, shape or fashion to disallow these citizens, CBI citizens, to vote. We must remember, as it stands now, they are citizens just like me and you, and they have the right to do so many things just like me and you. And we have to ask ourselves,
but not to vote.
Of course they have the right to vote.
Raja,
be careful.
I think that you've touched on a point that I think that we perhaps can dive into a little deeper. Right at this moment, St. Kitts and Nevis have, I believe, perhaps close to or in the vicinity of 50,000+ citizenship, economic citizenship. As we are sitting here tonight, there is nothing that can prohibit them from registering and voting. I believe that what is at play here is that the proposed destiny development have created an awakening that, hey, wait a minute, 10,000 people, or whatever the final tally would be, they can have a major impact on the
Outcome.
political outcome, fortunes of the island of Nevis. And I think that on both sides of the Narrows recognize that while we are presently dealing with the destiny proposal, we already have a huge elephant in the room. And I think that on both sides of the Narrows recognize that this is something that needs to be dealt with, and dealt with as a matter of urgency and priority. What we are hoping to see happen is some amendments to the National Election Act, where persons who have, in my mind, certain special preferences and however they get access to our citizenship, in our view, we don't feel that they should have the cake and still eat it, right? So that amendment is expected to come very shortly, where these economic citizens, persons in this whole destiny setup, will not necessarily have that right and that privilege to vote in our election here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. That is what is being proposed.
That set up a beautiful stage for a lot of court hearing, because I mean, a citizen is a citizen.
Yeah.
Yes, a citizen is a citizen. I am saying, I know you can amend the election, but constitutionally, I believe that is a very fine line you guys are about to tread.
You know, if I can just interject here, right? This is how.
No, that's serious. And I must say that we don't expect like the 7,000 people to be all economic citizens. A lot of them won't be. Will just be people who are not who have bought property, you know, as foreigners, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but there will be some that will be economic citizens. And the idea is to amend the act that they won't be able to participate. I mean, here is where we obviously start thinking about certain aspect of our political situation. A bit late, it looks like. I mean, you sell 50-something thousand passports, and now you're about to exclude them from enjoying full citizenship.
Can
Yes.
I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I just interject here? I mean, as it is now, right, with the numbers that Mr. Brand would have said to us, the reality is how many of them are currently voting in our country? That's one. Now, what we have to look, I understand what you were saying about the Constitution and the rights of a citizen, but we must also remember that this is a special zone that the legislation had to be passed by the Parliament. So what I would want to think is that, you know, maybe a clause, even if it is not wide spread to all CBI citizens, you know, once you reside in that particular zone, you probably would not be afforded the opportunity to vote. Because remember, it's a special zone and you have certain privileges.
Exactly.
Once you are residing in that particular zone.
But nothing special
and such
erase human rights. Nothing special erase human rights. Voting is a human right.
it might be a human right, but wouldn't you say that it is a right for persons to pay tax, but if they are in that particular zone,
Paying
they-
tax is not a human right.
I didn't say human right. I asked if it is not a right for persons to pay tax.
Maybe it's a right, but everybody don't like to pay tax. Most people don't like to pay tax. Tax doesn't have to be paid by everyone. If you can hide away from tax, then you hide away
Yes,
from tax.
but-
But let me tell you, human rights occupies a very special place in the scheme of things. The right to education, the right to worship, the right to vote. So you can maybe say to me that because they're in the special zone, they have no right to choose a religion of their own. I mean, this is quite vague. No. But I'm dealing with human rights here. I'm dealing with human rights. And your right to vote is a human right.
Naya,
But Naya, here we have, in my mind, a proposal for, or a request for persons to have certain, in my mind, certain special rights and privileges. The country can also say, in my mind, that there can be, or there ought to be, or there should be certain limitation on some of the rights and privilege that you can have. We are not saying that we are depriving anyone of their human rights. We are saying that hold on. We are saying that if you are coming to a country and you are making certain requests that you want to have certain rights and privilege, the country also have a right to say to you that there are some limitation to your rights and privilege.
you know, a simple basic human right basically is freedom of speech.
There are all kind of rights. You know. I'm talking about human rights. You cannot say to anyone that you're going to establish some limitations to their human right. In no place. Or you shouldn't be able to.
Let me ask a question. How do you classify freedom of speech?
Freedom of speech?
Yeah.
Freedom of speech isn't free, you know.
No, I'm coming to that. I just want to know how we classify it.
Well, freedom of speech is a standard which obviously
Is it a human right?
Well, I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure about that. You know, because now Trump say freedom of speech, you only have freedom to speak correctly. You don't have no freedom to speak incorrectly.
Okay, let's assume for this let us assume for this discussion.
You can't tell me that freedom of speech is going to give an individual the right to say things that are detrimental to the well-being of another person. We have had some situations in the United States where a lot of things are being said on a particular TV network, and they were saying them under the mantra of the freedom of speech, and they end up paying some significant monies for what they thought was freedom of speech. So I think while we appreciate that
Freedom
persons
of speech can be trimmed by existing laws, okay, but human rights cannot be touched.
But Naya, you know,
Human rights cannot be touched.
okay. Let us look at a situation like it is a basic human right for us to be able to use a bathroom, so to speak, or to get rid of waste, whether number one, number two, right? Would you say because you want to pee and you're in Charlestown, you can just pee on Main Street like that? And if the laws in the country states that you cannot pee on the island's main road, would you say that is a breach of your human right? So if you are saying that, if you are saying that,
existing laws, and if you have to do it,
so who make the laws?
You can go in court and win.
So who make the laws? And how are you doing that you could go in court and win?
Of course, you can go in court and win if you have no other if the biological makeup of you are such, or you have to go at the moment. You can do it even on any highway, and you can go in court and win. Of course.
I'm asking, how would you know you're going to go out and win? That's all I'm asking.
Oh,
because
man. Come on, man. Wait. You can go to court and be properly represented and win in such ways, you know. But don't drift off into all kind of different corners and segues, right? I believe, look, and I'm open to be convinced otherwise. Okay, but human rights cannot be messed with, cannot be shaped, cannot be altered, cannot be limited in any way at all. And if voting is a human right, to me, we will be walking a very thin and dangerous line, telling me the people who are citizens of Nevis, whether economic or otherwise, cannot vote.
Naya, you spoke about human rights. We have some countries here on planet Earth where their citizens don't have
a right to vote.
The right to vote. How do you equate that in the context of human rights? And their being deprived of the right to vote has been made by certain laws within their own countries and within their own borders.
They don't have the right to vote the way we vote.
This debate is enthralling. I'm taking a lot of notes, and I've been telling people, keep the debate going. And to quote the Donald, this kind of debate is like you've never seen it before. I am serious. Keep the debate going. And most importantly, as we have done on this show for over 3 decades, by the end of the day, let none of us fall out with each other. Keep the debate going.
Here to that, Webbo.
This program repeats tomorrow at 10 o'clock, following the VON News Minute. Join the Honorable Mark Brantley tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock for On the Mark. Join Keith Scarborough at 8 o'clock on Thursday evening, right here on Vaughan Radio for Government at Work, a place where you can spend all of your evenings right here on the Eastern Caribbean's Powerhouse. Thank you all again for joining us. Your voice in the community, thought that get results. You all have a wonderful evening.
The views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Nevis